My name is Michael Kimpur, and I come from a nomadic tribe in Kenya called the Pokot. The Pokot live a life that can be compared to how the Native American lived 200 years ago. I grew up not with computers and cell phone, but with bows and arrows and spears. In 2003, I got a rare opportunity to attend school at Bethel University in Minnesota. As I went about, I met many people, and every time and then they would ask me questions about myself, about Kenya, about the Pokot tribe. And the moment they realized I had that nomadic background, more questions would come. And wondering how I got to America in the first place. And this is that story.
Welcome.
Growing up in my village, I had a friend and many friends, young boys like me. In my own family, I had 4 siblings, and I was the eldest. My dad had 1 wife, my mother, and that is not so common in Pokot. Many men have more than 1 wife. In my friend's father had 5 wives, and they seemed to have more cows. And we also had our cows. And every other morning, boys would do what a typical Pokot boy does, driving the cows into the grazing field. Sometimes girls would do what the boys were doing if in that family a girl was the firstborn. So that girl would join boys literally and take care of their family's animals. And because I was the firstborn in our family, I was the one who was tending my father's cows. But the most problem that was gathering with the time was one to do with cattle rustling. Cattle rustling is similar to what we might call carjacking in America. So you might be forgiven to call it even cowjacking, but it is really quite a very complex issue because it involves a violent means of stealing cows by the use of spears, arrows, and many other tools that are so rudimental and traditional. But in the recent past, of course, it has taken a different turn. New weapons, modern weapons have come in, like machine gun, things like that. But in those days, it was, for the most part, traditional weapons. And I remember the morning when we were driving animals out, it was so terrifying because, for one, you are not sure whether you could come back alive. So the enemy tribes were always out to kill the herdsboy so that they can take away the animals. And at that time, there was also a lot of hunger and a lot of prolonged droughts and things like that. And of course, one moment we moved from the area and we went to a place called Morita. The whole traveling took a couple days. And when we got to Morita, we found we had moved so close to another tribe called the Karamoja. Karamoja live in the northeastern part of Uganda. And Karamoja is one of the fiercest tribes in that part of Eastern Africa. And they fight with the Pokot. So as we stayed and spent some time there, one morning, around 3 in the morning, my village came under attack from the Karamoja, and they began by securing the main entrance to the village. In my estimation, my village was about maybe 400 members or anywhere close there. And we were under attack. So there was a lot of screaming, a lot of cries from people. And with the main gate sealed, we only had one exit, just to go through the fence. And as to how, and we were really in the thick of a cattle raid, so terrible. And you really can't imagine how it all started. But cattle rustling has been going on for so many years. And the reasons to what causes cattle rustling is so complex too. Some of the reasons could be economic, because the cow is everything to these people. Some of it could be have so many variation. But I can remember there is a very, very interesting one that has to do with the myth creation. Among the Pokot, they believe that God created them, and God created the cow and gave it to them. And I wish it stopped there, but it was not to be so. The next tribe believes exactly the same, and the next one, and the next one, making the whole issue so complex. And that explains why these people have to fight over the cows. In this particular day when we came under attack, it was just but another cattle rustling incident. But this one now was affecting me and everyone in that village directly. I remember everyone was trying to get out from the homestead, but there was no exit. There was nowhere to run out from, because the main gate had been sealed, and Pokot put a very strong hedge around the homestead. So strong the hedge is that there is no way you can penetrate, and that is what it is meant to do, to slow down the enemy. Unfortunately, it also works both ways. You can't even find a way of exiting when you need it most. But for survival, people were just doing some desperate measures, throwing themselves into the fence and trying to break through the fence. That is exactly what we ended up doing. We jumped people were jumping over the fence, and some were really going, they try to jump, but they can't really go over it, because the fence is several feet high, and they are made of thorns, very strong acacia branches that are very tough thorns. On my part, I wasn't that lucky, because when I tried to jump, I sank into the fence, and I took several thorns on my body. Finally, I was able to get out of the fence, and then we ran and hid in the bush. And what followed was mayhem, killings, and running over the village. By noon, the whole village was wiped out, literally, and all the animals taken away by the Karamoja. So when we got back, we saw what was left of the village. It was really horror. And this would really change not only my own life, but the life of so many others. From then on, a group of us, a group of boys, left out into the jungle. And we were about 70 or 80 of us. And there were older boys who were in charge of the group and small ones. I was in the smaller category of boys, but we all stuck together and looked up to one another, and we moved on. Wherever we slept together. The next day, we would rise up and move. I don't know where we were going to, but I feel the older boys knew. Otherwise, we were then wondering, but I feel they knew where we were headed to. Several days passed by, and we were just in the jungle fending for ourselves. We would round up animals by hunting them and make food, look for water for ourselves. Sometimes there was no water, but I had to say this. There are moments when we would drink our own urine, because what do you do when you have no water? I mean, no drop of water. That was the situation. As we went day in, day out, at one point we hit a very wide sort of way or path, as it were, and so unusual was the path that we didn't know what to make of it. At least we know the trail that are made by cows, that we know. But what we found that moment was so different in many ways. It was wide and stretching further into the horizon. Well, this was a road or a track trail, but we were meeting it for the first time. We didn't know what it was. Some people even were of the view, maybe it was the way for the elephant. But we questioned that because we've never seen in our life the elephants getting that organized to make a highway. So that was really far-fetched. I think we spent some time there just, making fun of this road, some people running along up and down. But at some point, something emerged from the farthest end, and there was a lot of loud sound added to it, and it kept coming, and it kept coming. And when we were able to see clearly, then it added some terror to us, because this was quite a very unusual object or animal, for that matter. We've never seen it, with the reflection and things like that from the glass. Guess what? It was a truck. But if you have never seen a truck, especially coming from a nomadic and tribal context, a truck can be a monster. And as it came, some of the boys really literally ran. People were running away. I hid on a small thicket, trying to pop up my head up to see really what was going on. But when the truck came to where, exactly opposite where we were, it stopped. And what came out, the being that came out, took the whole situation to a new level, because what we saw was so terrifying. We were just seeing a white man for the first time, and there is nothing as terrifying as that. All of us, those boys, even the older boys, ran for their dear life. Nobody was left standing. And there is a good explanation why we were as terrified as we were. In our fairy tales, there is a story about the orca, O-G-R-E. Orcas are extraterritorial beings, or some being who live outer space, very fierce, and they can even hurt people, not to mention children or boys like us. And they are said to have long hair, long nose, big eyes, and they look green. So what we saw was a perfect depiction of what the fairy tale character was. So as we ran away for our dear life, the white person who was supposedly a missionary pursued us, trying to use sign language, beckoning at us to stop and to come back to where he is. And something, one thing led to another in very quick succession. We found ourselves at where the truck was, and the truck in every sense was a monster, another monster in itself. Especially when both doors on either side open, they sort of flip like the way an elephant does its wings. So some people would even connect it to look like an elephant, but it was just a truck, like I said before. So at that point, this white guy handed over to us some candies, and a candy at that point really tasted the sweetest. Tasting a candy for the first time is just incredible. It tastes like nothing else. It tasted even more than the honey that we collect from the beehives in the bushes around. So there was some sign language, and the white person would smile at us. Then we would spot his teeth and the tongue and the chin. We would see the ears and the eyes. In every way, he looked like us, but still looked so different. Those are things that was, for a herdsboy, so hard to reconcile. Yeah, we would always see him as an ochre, but still he had this human face. He shared his food with us. And then we've sort of developed a lot of an inclination to him, some attachment. A relationship was forming at really very, very fast pace. And either he joined our team or we joined his team, but we began moving together. And some distance further away, we ended up at a feeding camp, and we got some more food and some more water and some water to drink, and we would stay there. And with the time, some more people were coming in seeking help. People from around the surrounding areas. There was a huge influx. People coming from all over, and the feeding camp was swelling up. More people coming who needed really help. Some of them were being carried in stretchers. It was really a crisis. It was a crisis that was unfolding. But at that feeding camp, the two missionaries did all they could, and they helped those who needed treatment. There was even a cholera outbreak. I do remember, as we had food to eat and some water to drink, we would always, resume our normal lifestyle of dancing and singing as herdsboys. We would even go out and do a few hunting and bring the spoils to the camp. And we would invite the white person to take a taste, to eat with us some of the huntings we had brought in. Yeah, so within no time, he began organizing us. We just realized that we were in school.